This is part 2 of the exam prep videos in the lead up to the half-yearly exam for Year 9 Science. So in the previous video I talked about some tips, what to do pre-exam and on the day of the exam. And now I'm going to talk about when you get the actual exam itself. So getting the paper. Okay, let's suppose you get the paper and you're given 5 minutes reading time, which is typically the case. Here's what I would recommend you do. Scan. So scan through the paper from start to finish. Okay, 5 minutes is plenty of time to skim through. You're not going to read it in detail, but you're going to skim over it, right? Slowly taking your time. And you're going to number 2, mentally make notes. Okay, make note of the questions that strike you as the most challenging, let's say. When the writing time starts, here's what I want you to do. Doesn't matter how smart you are, doesn't matter how high of a mark you have so far from previous assessments. No offense, putting that aside, generally speaking, even high achievers in exams, they tend to, as bluntly as I can say, they tend to buckle under exam pressure. That's perfectly normal, me included. If you give me a time restraint too, I might also feel the pressure. Not a problem. So what you do is you go straight to the periodic table, which is generally at the back. Go straight to the periodic table, and I want you to annotate it. What does that mean? Let me show you. For most students, I've realized, especially with the chemistry topic, it's a bit of a memory game and they tend to struggle with memorizing certain things. That's not a problem. If you go to the periodic table, so I'm going to sketch the periodic table as best I can. Okay, so say it looks like that. Okay, so go to the periodic table, annotate the valencies. So the valency, remember, is the combining power of an element. So start from the right, I'd say. The noble gases here, this column. Valency of 0, then -1, -2, -3, plus or minus 4, plus 3. Okay, for each column. So 0, -1, -2, -3, plus or minus 4, plus 3. Now here, I'm going to write the pens. They typically give it to you in the exam. They have valencies that vary from +1 all the way to +4. And then +2 for group 2 and +1 for group 1. They're the valencies. Also valence electrons. I'm going to use a different color. So that's valencies. Valence electrons, how many outer shell electrons there are. And that's pretty straightforward. Group 1, there's 1. Group 2, there's 2. For the transition metals here, it depends as well, once again. Group 13 is 3, 14 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, valence electrons tends to be much simpler to memorize. I should mention the 8, except for helium, H3, He. Helium has 2 electrons, 2 valence electrons. That's what you do. Also, the number of electron shells, that's dictated by the period number, the row number. So row 1 has 1 electron shell, row 2 has 2, row 3 has 3, 4, all the way to 7, where that box ends here. This should take you, I don't know, a minute tops, if not less. So label it, okay? And go to the legend. Okay, the legend's usually at the top. It's like a box. Now on your periodic table, it'll have this for the legend. It's the key. Okay, it tells you how to interpret it. It's like this from memory. It'll tell you here, it'll show you an arrow, it'll say atomic number, it'll have symbol below that, it'll have atomic weight value, and it'll have name. So what it's saying is, for each box, each element, there's about 118 elements. The very top number, the number that you see at the top, is the atomic number, followed by the symbol of the element, followed by the atomic weight or the atomic mass, same thing, and the element name. It's very simple. Okay, I want you to highlight this or circle this, emphasizing that this is your friend. Okay, this will be very useful. And also annotate this and say that number of neutrons is atomic mass or atomic weight minus atomic number. Okay, the big number here, 197, minus the small number, 79. That should have you prepped for questions to come regarding the periodic table and valencies and so on and so forth. One more thing I've got to add, reactivity. Reactivity increases down a group. So write reactivity and put an arrow that goes down. Increases down a group, and that should help you. So that's what you do. As soon as you get the exam paper, I'll reiterate, scan through it start to finish, take your time, don't rush, mentally make notes, okay? And as soon as the writing time starts, go straight to your periodic table. Don't do anything else, but go straight to the periodic table, annotate it like this. And when you've done that, also make sure to put an asterisk, a star, next to the questions that you found challenging, okay? And start, so always start as well. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, start with multiple choice and work your way through the paper. Don't ever start with the long response. Don't ever start with short answer. Why is that? I actually made a video about this previously. Your brain needs to be warmed up, okay? And multiple choice is designed to warm up your brain, okay? They're probably the most challenging, cognitively challenging questions to tackle. Having done multiple choice, move into the short answer, then move into the long response. Okay, if you do the long response first, you're most likely to do mistakes, you're most likely to freak out, even though you're prepared. Always start with multiple choice. Put an asterisk next to the ones that you don't know how to do and come back to it later. What that does is actually your brain is still working on it subconsciously without you realizing. Okay, and most likely when you come back to it, you go, oh, okay, that's how you do it. Because other questions might help you trigger something in your brain to help you do it, to help you solve it. And don't ever leave questions blank. You have no idea how many times I've seen this, even with senior students, and I'll put a massive ring around this. You have a 0% chance, think of it this way, 0% chance of getting a question right if you leave it blank. You have a 25% chance of getting a question right if you guess. Okay, multiple choice, even if you come back to it, you don't know how to do it, just guess it. Put in B, put in C, put in whatever you want. Guess it, and you have a 25% chance of getting it right. Do not ever leave it blank. Markers hate that, okay? It goes to show that you don't know how to tackle exam questions. You don't know your exam technique. So exam technique is guess, okay? Even with short answer, write whatever you know about the topic. And eventually should hopefully come to something reasonable, okay? If not, just guess, okay? So they're the main tips with getting started